How are you guys? Welcome back to Wargaming China. And here we are, once again, at Little Bengbu. And it is the 14th of February, 1938. Now, in my last video, we were looking at events on the south side of the Huai River and the counterattack of the 4th Army Group all along the western flank of the Japanese and their supply lines. Now, as I said, between the 11th and 13th, the 4th Army Group had struck and achieved their goals, because by the 13th, General Drapeya Ogisu, commander of the 30th Division, had dispatched 3,000 troops from the north bank of the Huai in order to resecure his flanks and his supply lines. Now, he had occupied the town and driven out the 51st Army, but Lai Zongren now pulls out his final card. And the card he plays is to bring in the 59th Army of Zhang Zizhongs. Now, we have seen the 59th Army of Zhang Zizhongs in the previous video around Lin Yi, when Pang the Undead held Lin Yi, and that action happened March the 16th. So this is a month earlier, and the 59th Army is probably, how do we describe the 59th Army? Well, at this time in China, there's probably no army in the world, army group in the world, or soldiers in China, that have the esprit de corps of the 59th Army Group, of Zhang Zizhongs' 59th Army Group. And the reason for this is because it is a very celebrated unit. The song of this army is "Raise your big swords above their heads, hack 'em off." And this is the song of the 59th Army, but it isn't attributed to the 59th Army. It's attributed to the modern day PLA, and the Kuomintang changed the words, and it was written, the song was written for the 29th Army Group, or as some people would say, the 29th Route Army of Song Zheyuan. Now, you've heard me mention Song Zheyuan before on this channel, and I refer to him as the McCavity of warlords, because no matter what happens, he's not there. But his army is. And the reputation of this army goes back to the morning of the 1st of January 1933 at Shanghai Guan, when the Japanese infantry, Imperial Japanese Army 8th Infantry Division, 4 armored trains, 10 tanks, air support, and a naval fleet attacked the 200 defenders, less than a company, of the 29th Army's 626th Infantry Regiment. Overwhelming odds. But all fortifications can be tough to crack, and Fort Shanghai Guan is located where is the end of the Great Wall of China. Where the Great Wall of China ends at the sea is Shanghai Guan. And the men of the 626th Infantry Regiment, even though at less than company strength, held off against overwhelming odds for 3 days. But why did this confrontation happen? Because when you deal with Song Zheyuan, who I call them cavity of warlords, you're only going to know what he wants you to know. An example of this: so at Shanghai Guan, that's under the terms of the previous peace. I think it's the I can't remember the name of the peace term. Anyway, the peace term says the Japanese are entitled to have a garrison at Shanghai, a very small garrison of say 30 men. But Song Zheyuan interprets that as, oh no, that's at, not in. It's not in the fortress. So already, whenever an order not to be a confrontation against the Japanese, Song Zheyuan, as the leader of the 29th Army and the governor of Chahar Province, is it Rihi Chahar Province, is he's a man there's no autobiography on Song Zheyuan. But as I said, there are so many times when he's not there. Now, let me tell you another Now, as the 29th Army had retreated through to Zaifeng-Kou Pass, it had taken the opportunity to fight the Japanese in some very close order assaults with swords. And although these engagements were never really more than melees or skirmishes, for the Chinese people, the interpretation of just this small force, armed only with grenades, pistols, few carbines, and big swords, still attempting to defend China and Chinese territory, well, it built a legend for this army. And then where do we see this army again? We see this army as the 29th Army stationed in Beijing in July 1937. And we can read as many accounts as we want of that confrontation, whether we talk about the fighting at Lanfeng or Tianjin, but we will see that the 29th Army did fight. But at the end of the Nanjing campaign, I'll have a drink here. At the end of the Nanjing campaign, Zhang Zizhongs was commander of the 38th Division. Now, if you look at the map, you can see that any army, especially not a modern mechanized army, that would try to escape Nanjing and head north would be heading over the plains and would easily be annihilated by the Japanese. So during peace talks, Zhang Zizhongs had to do something that no honourable man, as perceived by the man in the street, would do. As a term of the ceasefire, in order to give the ceasefire a veneer of respectability, the Japanese insisted that General Zhang Zizhongs would become mayor of Tianjin. Now, this would put him in disgrace with the rest of China, but it would save his army. And it would definitely save the men of the 38th Division. So, the army retreated, Zhang took his post as mayor of Tianjin, stayed long enough for his forces to retreat clear, about a week or so, and then went to his home. First, finished all his family affairs up, and headed for Chongqing for an audience with Chiang. Because you see, as soon as he had signed the peace deal, he was kicked out of the NRA, the National Revolutionary Army. And as we remember, with warlord forces, the officers are sworn to Chiang, and the men are sworn to the officers. So, after we look at the fighting at Beijing, we could say that the 29th Army was destroyed north of the Yellow River at Zheyuan in December 1937. And Song suffered from a long illness and died about mid-38. Now, so that's the end of the 29th Army, but it isn't the end of the 29th Army, because two divisions, the 37th and the 38th, were carved off and formed into the 59th Army Group, and through good campaigning and a good word from Lai Zongren and a petition from his own men, Zhang was established as commander of the 59th Army Group. Now, well, that sounds very good, but it didn't put rifles in the hands of the men. But in many ways, at least Chiang wasn't putting rifles in the hands of the men. These men were so celebrated in China that rickshaw associations, boarding schools, all kinds of social groups raise money for arms and equipment for the men of the 29th Army, or the 59th Army as it was now, because it was indeed China's most adored army. I believe it to be China's most beloved army, but wasn't well equipped, but it never lacked for recruits because of its reputation. Because, as I said, it's esprit de corps in all the forces of China. It was second to none for esprit de corps. But all of this had put, as I said, its commander in disgrace. And I was talking about this with my friend Zheyuan, and he would say, well, if there's a commander in disgrace, the men under him would be. But he was appointed commander of the 59th Army Group after it was established. So, here's a quandary. But for this battle, the 29th Army will do what it's famous for, because the 29th Army is very well known for close infiltration at night attacks and close assault with the big sword. And tonight, at Long Hu Tai, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, as the 59th Army Group had come up, had headed south to head off the Japanese, you could see that how strong the Japanese were along the line, and it would be difficult to actually get the full force to Little Bengbu for the strike. So, so on the night of the 13th, a very, very heavy blow that was only a feint was delivered by the 59th Army at Huayuan. And this heavy blow did two things. It made the commander of the 13th Division, Rupeo Gisu, sent 3,000 men to Huaiyuan because he believed that that was where the main brunt of the Chinese attack would be. But, as I said, the attack was a feint. And by the 14th, the entire 59th Army Group, with the entire 38th Division, is ready to strike. And it'll do so at night. And it'll be a night attack. And even though, as I said, the armament of these men is pistols, carbines, grenades, and big swords. Plenty of grenades and a willingness to die. So self-immolation here will not have to be a roll for. I want to tell you more, so I will. Now, I was going back to Zheyuan. Now, Zheyuan, all we know about Zheyuan is what he wanted us to know about him. So you may read in books, and there's one author in particular I'm not going to mention, but he would insist that the French Hotchkiss type medium machine gun is the machine gun of the 29th Army. Well, that's what Zheyuan would probably want you to believe, but in fact, he was getting arms from everywhere. Ben Shi mentions that people state that he had reopened the old naval Taku arsenals and had them in full swing, and others state that this is a guy that you can just only doesn't leave many marks, and all you can ever say about him is he wasn't there. So let's go back to Nanjing. So all that fighting's going on, the exchanging shots, the Japanese Mr. Private, and people say, it was the communists. At Nanjing, the communists. Well, let me tell you something. By 1937, the Chinese Communist Party had split from the Soviets, from the Comintern. However, the Comintern was still broadcasting into China, and indeed, on the 17th of July, there are transcripts that say encouraged opening fire on the Japanese. Now, if the Comintern knows that the Chinese Communist Party and the Communist parties in the area the Chinese ones are not under their orders, who are they issuing orders to? Well, they're probably issuing orders to... I haven't read this in a book. Every book you read about China, it'll tell you about the Marco Polo Bridge incident and how somebody was a communist or a spy here. But, I actually believe, as I said, it's conjecture, because in this channel, I platform my understandings. I actually believe that Zheyuan was a Soviet agent. And every time he got the chance to provoke it with the Japanese with his army, he did so. And whenever it happened, Zheyuan was not there. It must have been Zheyuan, but Zheyuan wasn't there. So this is why now you understand what I call Zheyuan, the Machiavelli of warlords. Now let's get back to his army. How can an army so poorly equipped manage to deal such a heavy blow on the Japanese and convince the Japanese that this is the main strike of the Chinese army at Huaiyuan? It's because the 59th Army, most Chinese divisions are of 2 brigades, which is 4 regiments. But the troops of the 59th Army Group are of 3 brigades, so 6 regiments. So, and in each company is, for rapid fire, It's 14 men a company. So it's a very, very, very large formation. But what else is special about this formation is it's always led from the front. Officers in the 29th Army Group lead from the front. It does not matter if you are a company commander, a battalion commander, a regimental commander, brigade commander, divisional commander, or an army commander, you lead from the front. And that's why the 29th Army has the esprit de corps. And in this attack, the men know that their commander, Zhang Zizhongs, is in disgrace. And they know why. Because he sold his honor for their lives. And now they are going to repay him. They swear an oath that no matter what, they will be with their lives, they will restore their commander's honor and drive the Japanese out of Little Bengbu. And they're going to do it in a night attack by infiltrating forward as far as they can get. And the 59th Army Group is very good at that. And then it will be on. And because Ripei Ogisu has 6,000 less men, has shifted 6,000 men away from these positions, he's now down to an infantry regiment. But casualties have mounted up, so it's not a full-strength infantry regiment. Also, his big guns are still on the other bank, on the south bank of the Huai River. And unbeknownst to him, the 59th Army Group is going to attack in two formations with a right and a left hook pincer. And the objective of that pincer is Little Bengbu, and the objective of two companies of Dare to Die from the Special Duties Battalion is the annihilation of the Japanese Divisional HQ, now based in Bengbu. So it'll be a hard game. I'm going to have to have a heavy look at the night rules. And after this attack, the 59th Army Group did indeed drive the Japanese out of Bengbu and back to the south bank of the Huai River. And indeed, with assaults like this against positions at Huaiyuan by February the 17th, there will be no Japanese forces on the north bank of the Huai River. Because as we saw, the Japanese snake extended itself, the 4th Army Group hit the body, and the 59th Army Group has hit the head. Also, there was a strong appearance by the Chinese Air Force, and the barges and boats that the Japanese have been using have slowly been thinning out, with casualties and repairs and damage. So, as the fighting has come along, these Japanese troops do not have full pouches of ammunition. So there are going to be a lot of challenges for the Japanese in this game. Okay, I hope that's enough. You should press like and subscribe. I'll see you later.